Got it.
I was on it as much as you probably.
I don't know if I'm bringing its way around. I'm excited.
Does work on my iPad better than the computer.
Oh, really?
I can just see stuff so much easier.
I figured it was right on my computer.
I feel like it's way better on my iPad because you can't, on the iPad, you just have to shift the screen back and forth like that to see what you're looking at. And on a phone, it's a lot better, in my opinion.
I mean, I'm only ever looked at it on the computer, so I don't know.
So. Last year, for 2-week process to get her back. Unless you apply, but mine was the next thing.
Okay, we'll call order the regular. First thing we need to do is approval of the agenda.
I move we approve the agenda as presented.
Second, all those in favor? It is approved. 7-2.
One nation, without
justice for all. Occasions, I don't have any. There's a book up there we'll pass around. Appreciate everybody coming here and attend the meeting and all those watching on the video. So with that, after that, we got some spring state medalists we need to recognize. And bring them in. There's some of them the office there.
We've got two, which is really thin numbers for us. We qualified 33. Sorry. We qualified 33 in the state track this year. That's how many we took, which is more numbers than I remember ever. And I don't remember everything. I've been around long enough. Anyway, 13 of them got medals out of 30, so better than a third of them. And of the 13, we have 2 here. But we set school records this year in the boys 200 meter. We reset the school record in the boys 400. We set the school record in the girls 400. And we had a great year. And we enjoyed it and thank you for all that you do for us. But I can't remember all 13, so I brought cheat notes. But our boys 4x, and today to get medals at the state track meet, you have to be in the top 8. Okay, so our boys 4x400 meter with Isaac Girton, with Isaac, Jace, to Owen, to Brett, Isaac Girton, Jace Weller, Owen Craig, to Brett Hoffman. They got 8th at the state meet. Our girls 4x8 got 7th, which was Kylie. Started with Kylie, ended with Lauren and Raylan Cranmer and Janae Wolf were in the middle. The girls 4x4 got 5th at the state meet. That was Tova, Catlin, Boston Craig, Tatum Johnston, and Lauren Smith on the anchor. And I told you to be quiet. Then Tatum Johnston got 8th place in the triple. Ethan Tears got 7th place in the discus. Abram Stratton got 6th place in the javelin. Kylie got 5th in the 2 mile. Jace got 2nd in the 200 and 7th in the 100. And Lauren defended her state championship and won the open 8. It was a great day for us, great couple of days for us. We really appreciate it. All of their work and all the things you guys do for us. That's it. Kylie Fitzmeyer, Lauren Smith. You won't get to see Lauren again. Hopefully you get to see Kylie here a couple more times.
Congratulations.
Good job.
Policy updates.
Yeah, first read, and so any questions, we can take questions and. If you have any and get answers between now and the next meeting.
Questions on that tonight for him? Consent agenda items. Any questions there? So I'm gonna approve the consent agenda items as presented. Second, all those in favor? Motion carries 7-0. We'll go on to reports. Brett. Start off with. Oh, yes, and we'll try. Any comments from the board? We'd like to make?
Yeah, sure. I definitely give a shout out to our district staff and their extraordinary efforts for positive increases in the English language arts and the math scores in our district. This is an absolute blessing to see. Also, a sincere thank you to our students and parents in this achievement.
Say thanks to the work crews that are working on all that summer maintenance list in all of our buildings. Kind of behind the scenes work. We appreciate them.
I would just like to add with the absenteeism stuff, it's coming later, so chronic absenteeism, that drop and what we've done is really good. Keep improving that and so it's a great job by staffs and also again families getting the kids to school because that's the number one thing to get them there. So it's a great job by everyone. All right, anything else? With that, Brett?
Yeah, pretty typical, end of the fiscal year. I will kind of keep including that timeline and tweaking it. One potential challenge is we won't, it doesn't sound like the final audited legal max probably won't be till June 20th. So that'll potentially put us a little behind, but, we'll still get done what we need to get done. We go to budget workshop at the end of the month and, kind of some credit to our business office, and Andrea was asked to pilot the financial software for the state, KSDE. And so I think that's a testament to their faith and trust in her expertise and knowledge. That was really cool and will give us a nice head start. So that'll be good. Everything is going well on the health insurance and benefits side. We got kind of our not final, but almost final renewal on the health side, and the insurance is gonna be with Blue Cross Blue Shield. Is gonna be very similar offerings as we've had in the past, very little changes, so our staff aren't gonna see or experience a lot of changes on the service end. And then on the benefits side, that will look quite a bit different, but should cost them less in all areas and have more to choose from. So that's exciting to come. Open positions on your agenda tonight. We added a name late. We had an ELA candidate for middle school that was happy to accept a contract for next year per your approval tonight. So check that out. That's in there. We did fill the social studies position at the middle school. And so right now we certified wise, on 379 side, we have Wakefield Science, so we're still trying to fill. But other than that, we're doing pretty good. KSB, it seems like a long ways away, but there's some information in there. If we get five board members to go, they waive the cost, or the cost is paid, so be thinking on that if you'd like to attend. Let August know. Is there a due date with that, August?
I think I put July 11th or July something. That was when registration opens.
Okay. So if you could let August know if you'd like to attend that, and we can take care of scheduling those things for you. So that's what I have for the night.
Other questions for Seth? This time? If not, then we go to Anita's. She's not here tonight. The one thing, if you wouldn't mind, Brett, is like, just talk about the overpayment thing. We gotta reimburse that, right?
Yeah, and I'm in dangerous waters here, but I'll hit it at 10,000 foot.
Yeah,
But
sure.
basically, over through Medicaid, there was some underpayment going on across the state. And they didn't catch it, and so now all of the districts are being asked to pay back the overpayment. And so it wasn't our mistake, it was theirs, and so that will occur over the course of the next several years, and I'll let Anita, she has a good plan, and we'll be talking to the teller board about that. That'll be something that we have to budget in the teller budget over the next several years.
Just give everybody a heads up on that.
That makes more sense. Sure.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks. All right, and we'll move on to Jacqueline.
In my report, I had the literacy screening, fall to spring. It was nice to see the gains made by our students, and keep in mind, these aren't the reading standards. This is simply just testing their ability to read, comprehend, oral reading, all those kinds of silent reading, all those kind of pieces. We do have a special report for kindergarten, first grade, second, third, and eighth grade that we have to submit to the state, but I went ahead and just put them all on there. I made a mistake on the fees last month, and I looked, I did it last year and I did it again this year, so we're gonna fix that. We do just a flat fee for $30 a month. We don't charge whether you're going one day, two. And what that allows families to do is they can decide at any moment, I'm gonna go 5 days or one day's enough. And when we just have a flat rate, it's much, it's better for the families and more simple on our financial side. So I did put language in there for a motion. If I might get done with my report here. I put our kickoff information and I attached, so you guys could see our cardiac emergency response plan, which is part of, I think, Senate Bill 19. So we are partnering with Children's Mercy at no cost to come in and be an outside eye to watch our training and give feedback. But Jim Bogart and Howard Trimbath have been part of this planning process as well, and they will come and help us during our training. We have greater than 60 employees in the district trained in CPR in the last year. That's really awesome, not only for school, but for our community to know that we have that out there. And once they go through this training, if you read it, it's about positioning people until emergency personnel is there. So in essence, any of those people could, after the training, they can use that. If we're at the fair, if we're at a community event, if they're in a public place and something happens and they know someone from the team, they would be able to do that. So I think it's pretty great for our community as well. And then I put an update on, we submitted our Patterson family grant. We went until August about that. And then our first part of our Perkins grant was approved. So, that's exciting and means we'll be able to move forward and between us and Concordia, submit our requests. So that's a good thing. So, at the end of my report, I have the after school programming budget. And one thing I forgot to include on here is, they average about 25 kids a day during the school year, and they were at 21 for the summer. So. And I put at the back, if you collected fees, what that would be, and when I went back and looked, the last time the board paid for this, they did not allow waivers. They said they had to pay, and we had to, which would be different than what the grant does in Lincoln and Garfield. But we also had them pay up front for each month, so, but I just put those numbers there for your guys' information.
This will be in the budget for next year. Here's where this goes, right, for next summer.
I think we would need direction, the board.
No,
agrees.
no, I'm saying this is your next year's budget. This isn't for this summer. This will be for next. Summer.
Correct.
Okay.
This would be basically running July 1 to June 30.
Yeah, okay.
So what are we doing for the after-school program at Wakefield since we didn't get the grant?
That's what I just,
But
But that'd be for next summer. This summer.
No, I'm
No,
talking for
for
during the
this
school
school
year.
year.
We didn't get the grant, so what are we gonna do? Are we gonna get rid of it? We gonna fund it?
I think we need to look at budget, what that is.
Because if we didn't get the grant, we have no way to pay for it. So what are we gonna do?
Right, so this is
We've
just
got a
the summer.
plan in.
no,
the works.
it's the whole school year.
Okay,
and summer.
okay, so we have, so yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's gonna, if
Can we
we
do
make
the
a motion to accept that, then
So-
that means,
It'd be 41,000.
so that means we're gonna fund it. So where are we gonna fund it out of?
So it's a great question, and Jacqueline and I were just talking about that. Logically, if we do end up 50 to 60 students down in the next year, we'll have to probably go through another budget reduction process. And so in my mind, the simplest, the best, really the only way to do that is to give something up. So in my mind, it would be finding some reductions equivalent to that amount. And remember, we'll be funded on this year's budget, so we would need to make that cut for the following year.
So you're saying make cuts in that building to cover that amount?
Or in the district, but we would need to reduce our expenses by that amount unless we want it.
but
So,
I would also like to look at, we could take and roll over transfer contingencies where we're at.
yeah, but here my thing is, so when's the next time we can apply for the grant?
Well, it's federally funded, and
Yeah.
I've been in the district office for 11 years, and only 1 year did they not take any new applications. And I don't know, I can't remember the reason why. I don't believe it made it from
Well,
federal.
5 years or 6 years ago, we funded it and we paid like 22,000 for the school year or something, or 25,000.
I think it was 25, and it did include summer. Part of that is
Because
as
the
you've
next-
increased rates.
Cause the next year we applied for the grant and got it.
Yeah.
So it had been at least 6 years ago
Yeah.
when we did that.
And
What I-
functioners grants up in a year, right?
Right.
And the way I understood our discussion was we were gonna include it all in one.
Correct, because I don't want them against each other.
Right.
So I'm gonna write
So
one
they're-
grant with
All
all
the
three
schools
buildings
in
in
one
it,
grant,
because I don't.
you have the next time we apply.
to be against
So
each
my
other.
question is, if we're gonna apply and put all 3 schools together next year, is this an expense we can take out of contingency reserve for 1 year?
Off of,
I mean, if we're gonna do it 1 year and then we're gonna apply and hopefully get a grant for all 3, because if we don't get the grant for all 3, then we're in a bigger boat than we are now.
exactly. That would be my
And
preference.
instead of contingency, if we did have some additional carryover, we could carry over a little bit more into at risk and fund it out of ours.
Okay, well, I'm just saying, you know, we do it for 1 year, and if we're gonna apply Garfield, Lincoln, or whatever, and Wakefield all is one, then it's a 1 year deal, because if we don't get the grant for that next year, we're gonna.
That's the Lincoln and Garfield's about 120,000.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking a totally different number if you have to do all three.
Sure, and I understand that, I
But we
understand
can have
that,
the
but,
grant for the three.
but the concept is, if we're gonna continue to do it, and we don't get the grant, then we need to figure out a way to fund it. Or we get rid of all of it, don't do it, one or the other.
You know, my thought on this too, and it all, it's all in the same envelope as what we're talking about, but can we be proactive enough to have a contingency plan? In case if the grant funding does not happen, and just say, okay, you know, we've been proactive enough to go ahead and say, all right, 12 months from now, whatever, this grant doesn't come through, and what do we have to do funding wise to be able to keep the plan implemented?
And I think that's what we'll do, probably when we plan next year's budget. We need to just figure out to cover all 3 in case it doesn't happen.
This year, the only thing we gotta do is wait.
Yeah.
So.
We'll figure out Wakefield for this year.
And I am all for whatever, you know, we transfer money around and content for 1 year. You know, it's just for the, again, I go back to the people that work hourly and single parents, all the parents is that this is enough, this has really made their life easy. And that they get a big return. So I would like to be able to,
And it's good for the kids, because
Yes, it
there's,
is.
obviously, there's a lot of kids that go to Garfield and Lincoln, so.
Yeah.
You know, as far as that goes.
so, and we have the facility, we have everything there that we're using. You know, as far as equipment, the classroom stuff and all that, it just doesn't make sense to me just to throw that all out. So I think that's kind of the direction to work.
It is $41,000 for 25 kids, so it's equivalent of a teacher and a classroom. So kind of keep that in mind on the budget is, you know, if you want to keep that, then are we gonna need to get rid of another teacher and another classroom somewhere else along the way? I mean, it's a great program, love the program, but it's not something we've always done, and you guys have said yourselves that we are not in the business of providing childcare. So if we just need to not just do it because we've done it for the last 10 years or so. I hope that we'll,
I hope
Maybe-
I hope that's true next year if Lincoln and Garfield's grant doesn't get approved.
well, that's kind of what I was thinking. Like this precedence is saying that we will. You know, I understand for 1 year we're gonna do this, but I don't necessarily agree that losing classrooms in order to fund an after-school program would be the best option. But I would love to have some like return on investment information from this year about hearing from the parents that are involved or the kids are going and knowing that from them that it's actually beneficial or what the outcomes are, other than just saying, well, we've done it and it sounds like a good idea. Let's keep spending the money, making sure that it's worth the
You
investment.
know, we collect attendance data, classroom data as far as like academics, parent surveys are part of it. So those things will continue even though the grant's not there, so we'll be able to share that with you guys. The expenses that aren't on here are the requirements for the grant for, certain programming, but some of the professional learning. They require 2 people to go to a national conference, 2 to go to a state conference, and an evaluator, that right there's can be anywhere to $15,000 on a grant, which isn't in here, but some of those other pieces will still happen. We can share that for sure.
So is what I'm hearing is develop a short-term, one-time solution for next year and then pending the outcome of a new grant. Is that kind of what I'm hearing?
Yeah, and we'll work on the contingency for If, how, if we didn't get the grant for all of it. See if that's a.
And do you want the fee structure and waivers to be the same as it is at Lincoln and Garfield?
Yes. I do. I think if they qualify for a waiver, they should qualify for a waiver. In my opinion.
Do we need a motion for that?
Okay.
You could in your motion to fix my leave, you could say you moved to approve the project lead fees for Lincoln, Garfield and Wakefield. You could do it all together.
Sort of the fees are the same.
It's no change.
Yeah,
I just
yeah,
messed up.
yeah.
before.
No, but I'm saying, are they the same on both grants?
Correct.
They-
Although in the new grants, like the ones that was out there this year, you can't charge fees.
Okay.
So,
So for like this next year, at least we could recoup a little bit.
yeah, I would guess about 3,000. If you think of it, pay for the
Because most of the
supplies
people
or
are
the
gonna have a
snacks.
waiver, probably.
Yeah, I looked at this year's numbers, so you would probably get enough to pay for at least the snacks and the supplies, so the district cost is the personnel.
Yeah, we can do that. And, so I think I agree with Jacqueline on your question, Linda. Just add Wakefield.
To that fee scale, yeah,
To-
on that
Right.
motion.
So I move to approve projected lead fees for Wakefield, Lincoln and Garfield's going to be $30 a month, flat rate with waivers for the 25-26 school year.
Second.
First and second, all those in favor? Carry second.
Thank you, Jack.
Anything else, Jacqueline?
No.
If you would, going through the principal's reports, is, I don't know if you've read it, but I really like the fact, at the end of the year, like you went through Lincoln School, 2% chronic absences, since 6 of 353 kids. Garfield 5%, 9 of 165. I mean, that's great numbers. Could we get those same numbers from the middle school and the high school? Okay, they weren't in the principal reports, but in Wakefield's, K through 8 attention.
We could go back and show the last 5 years, each building, like show you what they've been.
Yeah,
Like
and
in
a
a
lot of
chart.
them talked about the past, it's just, it wasn't this year's number on the middle school and high school weren't there.
Okay.
So, and even Wakefield K through 8, 94%. K through 12, 91. So those are, like I said, good numbers, we're making progress. I just, what those, what was our goal? We're at 10%, below 10%. Like I said, I just like to see it get below 10% in every building. District wide's good, and if we can get it below 10 in every building, but anyway, like I say, staff, everybody's just did a hell of a job with that, and people getting kids to school, I mean, it's really.
I know, Dave mentioned it, but man, I'm not an emotional person, and I got emotional looking at those Ames web scores. Those are phenomenal results this year. Like that's a whole lot of people doing a lot of work. So.
And then the state assessments come out this
Wow.
fall, correct? And I know they're new,
They'll be new benchmarks, so.
right? But we
That's
get
why
them,
they're
what we did in the spring, we get them in the fall. So, okay. Anything else for Jackson? Okay, very
Have
good.
we, have, I got one more. Have we heard anything on the money and letters, training and funding and
I know
since
they
it's
submitted
mandatory
a-
by the end of next year?
What was it called? They submitted something to the feds asking for it, and that hasn't been.
Even responded,
And
probably.
I think we had like 10 that were ready to go through training, and so I sent something to them and said, that I was preparing numbers if we had to do it ourselves. But I thought we could wait till September, and if we don't hear or have any more movement as PICA, then we can make our decision. What we need to do, I just. We've already, they have the stipend. And we've bought all but some of our new teachers. We have the subs budgeted for the training. It's the license fee, and so, it could be $20,000 when we're done, so before we do that, let's just make sure they don't come back out with. Some success.
Good.
We have a couple years, so we're okay.
Anything else with that? All right, well, I guess that gets us to the business discussion. First off, some property casualty insurance.
Yeah, I don't know that we need to spend a lot of time unless you'd like to, but it's very similar package. We did have an increase because they increased the value of our property. And so they increased our rates with that, which is
That was very reasonable.
and so not a lot to change. We are waiting on a deductible buy down option. We don't have to go that route if we don't want to. It did decrease from 2 years ago last year, and so we don't know what it'll be this year, but sometime, I don't know if you guys want to talk about that now, but
I think in Kansas, like say, going from a $250,000 deductible for each occurrence to 25. With wind damage and all that, it's definitely worth pursuing, and hopefully those numbers come back in. So it wouldn't take too many $250,000.
if you had 2 of them in a year.
Yeah, it would, so. To keep that policy to buy that down, hopefully those numbers will work out.
So, as long as we're at a reasonable, we want us to go ahead and move forward with that. Okay, we budgeted for it, so.
I move to give approval to bind property and casualty insurance coverage with Kansas Insurance Cooperative for Schools as presented.
Second motion and a second, all those in favor? Motion carries 7-0. Okay. Workers' comp renewal, like we have a choice.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. Still, our numbers are good, went down a little bit. Our mod continues to hover in a good space and it's going in the right direction. And so good news there.
Any questions?
I move to approve the RAS workers' compensation renewal through Iron Insurance Partners as presented.
Any motion? Second, all those in favor? Motion carries 7-0. Bond capital outlay planning.
Yeah. So my goal was to answer a lot of the questions that you had from the last meeting and some of the topics. And so, and this is, I just want to clarify, I should have wrote all over this rough draft because it truly is. This is just brainstorming. It continues. You know, we started very wide with a lot of information and a lot of data, and we just, my hope is that each month we continue to funnel and refine and put parameters around the direction that you guys see us going with this potential bond election. And so I tried to stay really high level, start narrowing our scope to focus areas. And again, I don't know that these are the right ones or the ones we'll end at, but if you could hop to focus areas, Jacqueline.
I would say on this, before Brett gets in, is when we talked about this is, I really, Dave was at the agenda, I really wanted to get this out there and get this to us. Then I thought we already have a special meeting on the 23rd, but we would designate time to come back. That give you guys a little bit of time to look over this and really have a good discussion on the 23rd. When we do the transfers here in a couple of weeks. Not that can't take questions tonight, but really give you a chance to look into it and things like that and set aside some time on the 23rd. Okay? All right. Yeah.
But kind of hearing the feedback from you guys, looking at the needs of the district and with the idea again of developing a plan and an outline for our district. So we have a plan to maintain high quality facilities, safe facilities for the next 10 years. And also that our deferred maintenance is taken care of and planned for the next 10 years. And so the 4 big areas that I see continuing to come to the top is safety and security enhancements in our district are probably one of the biggest features of this potential bond issue. And so that ends up when you start line item things out, that's where a lot of the projected costs comes from, would be safety and security enhancements, preserving our facilities, like making sure we have, take care of the deferred maintenance, make sure we have a plan for it, make sure we have a budget for it, and taking care of some of those bigger ticket items that would be really difficult to address or take care of through capital outlay. Efficiency and making sure we're optimizing the use of our facilities. And so making sure that our facilities are also prepared for our students and our staff for the next 10 years and that they're arranged and placed in the right manner. Also really focusing on that community focus piece And so, what's best for our communities that we serve in the environment, especially with our facilities and what can be available to them. And so if you kind of look at focus area one, and again, these will continue, I'll continue to refine these. You guys continue to give me feedback and we can again, draft, just think that we got a lot of work to do still, but this is hopefully a good starting point. But under safety and security, the big things that shake out in my mind, the safety and security of our entrances, the entrance and the exit and the access to our buildings is an area and that we've learned needs some improvements to ensure that we're up to par with industry standards. Security cameras and technology related to that area, and that can get big very quickly, but that's an area that costs a lot of money. And technology, as you know, advances fast, and we're at year 12 or 13 in that department on our equipment, software, all of that. And so that's, in my mind, definitely an area that we see. ADA compliance, ensuring that we continue to be ADA compliant in our facilities. Is a big one. And then communications is another big ticket item, and that's the safety and security piece. So think fire alarm, intercoms, communication within a building, crisis communication, day-to-day communication, notification, that kind of thing. And lots of these systems tie together if you do it right. A lot of the districts that have done a really nice job in this area have found solutions to tie all of these things together so that it's fluid, that it's easy to use, that it's easy to communicate with our staff, and it can get big really quick. I've gone down a rabbit hole 3 or 4 times on it and been talking to some districts that have been doing it. And so I think the thing there that I struggle with just a bit is a couple of our buildings have newer fire alarms, but we have 3 or 4 different systems within a building. You might have Johnson controls in one or a simplex in another, and the intercom's separate from the phone system or vice versa. And so looking at a model that could get us more efficient and safer in this area, I think is would be wise on, at least in my mind, set us up, our schools up for the next 15 years to be good in that area. Preservation of facilities. This is the stuff that's not a lot of fun, that a lot of people don't like to spend money on, but when you maintain $90 million worth of property, it takes a lot of money to maintain it. And so think exterior envelopes, making sure we're watertight. We got a lot of tuck pointing and stuff that we need to do with all of our buildings being brick and mortar. That tuck pointing is a big piece, and every 10 to 15 years, you need to readdress that kind of thing to make sure we preserve facilities. Roofing, I'm still not convinced that's an area we should have in the bond. I think that's an area we might be able to pull out and handle within capital outlay. We already got a plan, but we can talk about that down the road. HVA, the same. Plumbing, especially at a couple of our schools, namely Wakefield, it needs a complete overhaul. It needs everything taken out underneath and the tunnels and redone. And you'll see that number in their parking lots, as you know, is an area. And then making sure some of our learning spaces are modern and useful to the needs of our students and our staff. Efficiency, talking about some consolidation ideas, can we reduce some property that we own, maintain less property? There's some ideas in there for that. In my mind, we have to do away with mobile units. I don't think we should be teaching kids in mobile units. And so in my mind, but to do that, we do have to make up for some space. And so there's some things in there. Optimizing facilities, staffing needs, and community access. Community focus, so that's your ADA, that's your modern, that's your safe. Playgrounds are a big piece that are used and accessed by the community. Playgrounds cost a lot of money, they're expensive. You can see and understand why ours are as old as they are, but it is a significant cost, but I do think it adds a lot to our community and our students if we could think about doing something there. And then there's some traffic flow things at a couple of our facilities that continue to be a bit of a challenge, and so might be some things to look at there from community parent access in and out of our facilities. I'll pause before I get into each one, any comments, questions? Okay, so at Wakefield. And just so you guys know, our needs assessment and all of that data that we had. The mindset wasn't trying to necessarily make sure that Lincoln had the same as Garfield, or that the high school had the same as middle school, or the middle school had the same as Wakefield. It was looking at the building's needs. And addressing what needed taken care of over the next 10 years. And so that was the approach that we took, that as we continue to refine this. So kind of building wide, you'll see exterior envelope, and that's drainage, tuck pointing, painting, exterior doors, just making sure our buildings are secure, they're tight. They're, all of those needs are taken care of for, and to secure those exterior envelopes over the next 10 to 15 years. Safety and security, every building has that. That's gonna be looking at shoring up the security of the entrances, security camera, and hopefully an integrated system that is the same in every building when you talk about security camera, fire, intercom, and emergency notification. Those are areas that through our crisis drills that we've really noticed that we need some work. And some of those things you hope you don't ever have to use, but when you need it, you need it. So playground, you'll see in all of our elementary buildings have some playground enhancements. So you'll see that across every building. Plumbing is not in every building, but there's parts and pieces. The big one is at Wakefield, and that is a bigger ticket item, but I think if you ask Greg in the back, like that's not an option not to do somehow, some way, whether it be a blonde or whatnot. Greg spends a lot of time down there. He was telling me how far we're gonna crawl 100 yards to get underneath the bathroom in a tunnel. Yes. And so there's some things that we need to do there. And as we did that, we would also remove that old boiler system out of there because it's not used and been abandoned. There's some roofing in there. Again, in my mind, I think that's enough. As you know, I think I'm at 13 million or something now. So we do need to pare this list down. We know we have too much right now and we're gonna have to whittle down. And in my mind, roofing is one of those things that we have in a plan already. We only have a handful of roofs left that we need to do to get to where we need to be, but we can talk about that. So Lincoln Elementary. So one idea, as you know, we talked about last month, and some questions you had for me was how many rooms do we need? What space do we need? What does that look like? Can we pare it down? And so I think the first thing to consider is to remove the mobile units, we lose 3 classrooms. As we continue to look at the idea of moving to a 3-section building at Lincoln, that does free up some space potentially. But as I expressed my concern last month to you guys, I would struggle to recommend to fill a building to capacity from the start. If you don't have any contingency space, if we do get that grade of 80 or 90 coming through, we have to have space in my mind set aside to use. So as you know, Lincoln has 2 basement classrooms. They're not popular rooms to be in. But this plan, last month we were kind of looking at 6, but if we pared it down from a 6-room addition to a 4, would you put the next one up there for me, Jacqueline? So if we did go from a 6 to a 4, so then we make up for the 3 lost. We would, in this, we do have to make the cafeteria, and this is draft, this is high level, we know it's probably gonna change. Gibson came up with a good idea here. We know if we would add kids from Garfield over to Lincoln, that we would have to make the cafeteria bigger. It's just not big enough to put 400 plus kids through in a day. And so, and then we had originally talked about putting this right up next to here, but then these classrooms don't have windows. That's never been in elementary buildings for 20 years. It's usually a great thing to do. And so Brandon had an idea that actually, from a construction standpoint, it's a little cheaper because you block out this grade here. You don't have to cut into this grade. You know, it's real steep off that building there. But anyhow, so we take this room, we'd have to do away with this room, and that's why we're doing 4 instead of 3 down here. to make the cafeteria bigger and get a corridor from the main building down here. And then this would become like a big conference room, bring extra space, a couple of extra intervention spaces. And then that would drop you into the corridor and then we would have 4 rooms, and that change did bring that build from, 6 million down to 4. And so, and I want to check a number really quick let me come back to that. Then you have exterior envelope, safety, security, same thing as moving the power from the playground outside of the playground to underground. There's some roofing stuff in there, playground like every building. And then, is there another slide? Could you click another one?
Lincoln only has this one and then
Go. Is that all that's up there?
just the map and then the one page.
Oh, I can't believe what happened. Bus lane, you remember the diagram from last time? I'll put it in on the 23rd, but basically I thought I had one on here, but it's coming in from that street down south and getting a bus route to come, well.
It was a different, you can't see it on here because it cuts. You had a different aerial picture that had that.
Yeah, I know, I forgot it, but anyhow, it gets a bus lane, if you imagine this is that it comes up through the bus barn. And it circles back through, so you'd have another bus lane, a drop off and an exit and entrance for buses. And some additional parking, because you're removing some parking, and I'll put that image. I'll put that image in next time, but I think I showed it to you guys last week. You
And
guys,
that would abandon the bus lane to the west of the school.
Yeah.
We would no longer use that.
we
We
can
can come up and drop off and go back out Clay Street, enter off Sherman. That land we own, just a lane. So.
And then. So. Something there. That's right. Okay. Garfield, so in this, and we looked at all kinds of things like. To reduce a facility, to abandon this office, consolidate buildings, get a true. A K-5 arrangement, eliminate traveling teachers. Be a lot more efficient, and we talked about, can we move 1 grade to the middle school, move another grade, to Lincoln, do a different sized addition. Heck, we even talked, do you do a 7 through 12, lots of different things, and the thing I think everyone that I realized through this process the last year and a half has been, we have really, really good facilities. I mean, the good bones, they're in really good shape. They've been taken care of and they've been maintained. It's just how do we best utilize the space in them for efficiency and just high quality teaching and learning. And so, one idea would be to move this office in pre-K to Garfield and hop over to that, yeah. And so this is just kind of sketched out, high level thinking, please provide feedback. But so you can kind of see this is the main SAC office here. Basically, our SAC office would fit right in this corridor here. And then this could be a big curriculum and instruction room where we could store our stuff and house Jacqueline, because Jacqueline could support the preschool. She would be right next door to help support the preschool when they needed support. And we could have some pre-K rooms up here. The library at Garfield would be a much more suitable boardroom in my mind and house a lot more people. Leave the gym for community use as it is now. We'd have a process for that to be used by the community. And then, perhaps a secondary conference room here, and then Telec would kind of sit back through here. And then the IT department would be back here because there's a access to deliver big shipments of computers or technology or whatnot. And so hop back to the next one if you would, Jacqueline. And so in the pre-K, you don't have to add bathrooms, but if that's the direction we go and we were going this direction, that was the long-term plan. I think it'd probably be wise to consider adding bathrooms, single bathrooms to the classrooms so they have access. And this is a very high budget number, probably too high, but we put some stuff in there to do some transitional pieces. The exterior envelope's the same as the other buildings, safety and security is the same as all the others. And playground wise, that's probably pretty high too, because hop back to the map. The idea would be the playground that sits back here now. Leave it open and available to the community, so it'd still be open to the community and just put, so that budget number was to reduce this whole playground with turf, but I don't think we need to do that. We could leave it as is and do a smaller fenced in pre-K playground just out to the west that they could take up to over here. So I think we could whittle that down just a bit too. Middle school, there's some diagrams there. And so something, and you guys know, we talked about this in our walkthrough tours in several different places over the last year and a half, but community access, bus access, any kind of access to the middle school has been pretty tough. I don't know if it's true or not, Jeff, maybe you remember, but I was told it was that lane was supposed to be there when it was built.
That was built before I got on the board.
Okay, but.
1 year before I got on the board.
That they ran out of money. I included some data from a concrete person on the parking lot here and kind of their opinion on it, and that maybe there was an issue when it was installed, and that's why we're having so many problems with it now. And so if we want to truly address that problem.
So that issue that was, when it was installed back in 1992 is now surfacing to our problem. Is that what you're saying? 30 years later?
That's what I believe. Yes. Yeah. And so that's a bigger ticket item. I mean, that, I forget where it is, but it's a big number, but if we don't do anything, we're gonna have to do something at some point in time. And so that's something to consider. And then again, you'll see your safety, security, fire, intercom, emergency notification. And then at the high school, same thing, exterior envelope, safety, security pieces, similar across all the buildings. We had some, an assessment done on that parking lot too. And so, the main core of the parking lot's pretty good. There's a few areas up in here and around here that we would want to cut out and re-pour, but the worst areas are here and here. And they attempted asphalt overlays over a period of time. I think I had a picture in there. And when I asked your guys' question about asphalt overlays, yes, it can be done, but it will very quickly look like what it looks like underneath, because it'll just break through and we'll be back. We'll be back to where we are in a few years down the road. And so one idea would be get this replaced, that replaced, and then do, I forget the percent, but there's a percent to that budget number to do some of those pieces there. District gym, same thing. I mean, your exterior envelope, safety, security, cameras, fire, intercom, emergency notification. And then you can see the total, we're around that 12.6 mark. I think we would probably want that down a little bit more, based on what you guys would decide on amount and term of a bond, but, we can continue talking about that. And I think there's a few pretty, good solutions to be able to get that a little bit lower in that range that we're comfortable with. I've been kind of going around that 10 to 15 year term, somewhere in that range-ish. And then that puts you probably closer to that 10 million mark, 10.5, 11, depending on if you go to 15, what interest rates are. A lot of what ifs there, but, and then we have this idea of alternates. All of these budget numbers, just so you guys know, they have current market prices plus contingency, plus design, plus an additional percent as a buffer. So they're high level numbers. And so knowing that, assuming we would go CMAR route, I assume we would, that's what most people do. That is what you would do then is when you do go that route, you build in some alternates to the bond. And so you include them as part of it, but they leave them as alternates. So as we complete projects and they come in under budget, we can use what was under budget to fund the alternate projects. Some examples of alternate, and these are, ceiling tiles in all of our buildings, like there's a few of them. Yes, we can get to a lot of them. The worst is the high school because of the concrete deck. And there's only about this much room in them, and so you can't just pop the tile out and move, like you gotta take the grid out. I mean, it's a big, it's a big ticket number, and I just had a really hard time putting ceiling tiles in when it adds up to probably 1.1, 1.2 district wide to do that. But I may be the only one with that opinion. I think LED lighting is something that we should really consider, if we can afford it due to its long-term efficiency. The ROI on LED lighting, a lot of the data and research that I read now is 5 years. And so you'll be saving money in 5 years, and sometimes significant dollars. It's big upfront, but the ROI is really, really good. So electricity is expensive. And I'm sure there's some others that I missed, but I know that's a lot of information, but, I hope that accomplished what you wanted it to and kind of putting it together. I think one of the questions was, if we address all these major things, what do we have left? But you can see we need to probably pare it down a little bit more, but I do believe it addresses most of what we need, and until I get some more direction from you guys, I have on the other side of it. Anything that isn't included in here that needs to be addressed in the next 10 or 15 years, I've been sketching it out in our cap outlay plan over the next 10, and I think it's extremely doable. To accomplish all of our district's needs in the next 10 to 15 years between a bond and capital outlay. I do, and just to be completely open, honest, transparent, we will struggle significantly to maintain quality facilities without a bond issue. Especially from a safety and security standpoint. They're just things that are outside of the budget range that we have without a bond issue. So, questions?
We talked about if you can on the 23rd, but the playground is one thing we thought we could save quite a bit of money by paring some of that down on the playgrounds from the size. If you could just get an idea of what, if we pared that down a little bit, an idea of what we could save on our things on the playground.
I think the big question is turf or not turf. So we did, Eric, we didn't go out and measure them, but we used Google Earth and got the square foot of the existing structures and tubing, basically, where the tubing is. And we budgeted for that much turf to fill those areas. And so, yeah, we can dig into that a little bit more for sure. And maybe I can get some.
Like I said, what they're going to, how much would it save us? You know what I'm saying, to not do that one. Yeah, and just do a small new one on that west side. I guess that's the.
Sure, yeah.
Brad, the updates for the safety communications systems, to tie in all the district buildings on the numbers. What we have right here, does that include that type of a package?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, security cameras right now are scheduled out on their own line, but the cost of that equipment and software is, and then you have they call it voice over fire alarm. But that is its own number, and those are based on some recent school construction that have put all new systems in. So pretty updated cost with contingency, with design, with some extra put in. So those numbers should be very conservative to be able to accomplish all of that system.
thing I can think of is that, and now that Linda had a good idea on last month's board meeting. Is, it's just on, if we thought any more about looking into a neutral, independent, outside type of consultant. To come in and say a facilities consultant and say, all right. You know what your needs are. Can we do this, this and this and be able to get this down to a better level? Or to a more conservative level on our total bill. That what basically you're thinking about with having a neutral consultant?
I think I was talking about technology specific, but I'm not talking about this with facilities. But I'm all for the making sure that we trim where we can and spend this money like we're spending our own, essentially, so. And I appreciate how much has already been able to be thinned off of this, and so now just time to take some time and think about what's on that list and see if there's any other path that can be trimmed. And still provide a safe, comfortable place for our kids to learn.
You took the roofing off. Did the exterior envelope of the district gym and the interior improvements, plumbing at the high school and the ADA compliance at the high school. It's about 600,000 between those things.
Yep.
I'd be interested to see. I don't know what we need for a SAC office, how many square feet. But go north of that new drive coming off the middle school, we own the land. Build a new SAC and Telec office. Keep Garfield and Lincoln like they are. Because you cut out $4 million from Lincoln. You're gonna already put the driveway in, you could share that drive coming off 9th Street, maybe put a little pavement going north. But even if we need a 4,000 square foot building at, you know, $400 a square foot, you know, 1.6 million, maybe, I think you could do it for less than that. Tell you the truth, slab on grade, put a storm shelter in one corner of it. Or make the bathroom or somebody's office or something, a storm shelter. You get rid of this old building here and you could have new technology in that building and you wouldn't have to do all the transition stuff and changing and just something to think about.
That's somebody recommended.
I mean, I don't know how many square foot you actually need. I don't know how many square foot this building is, but I wouldn't think you know, you could have all new technology in it. You could have, you know, everything. I mean, with a new building and you're gonna spend $500,000 at Garfield. You're gonna spend 4.6 million at Lincoln. You know, there's $5 million even if you did spend $1 million on a new SAC. And did upgrades at those other buildings that are needed. I mean, technology wise and everything like that, but. And see where we're at, you know, we're already gonna have 3 classrooms that we're not gonna use next year. With the reduction in the number of classes, we can move the 3, get rid of the portable buildings and move those 3 things inside. Even if you didn't do it next year, did it the year down the road or whatever to plan a little bit better. I mean, that's some things to think about, I guess.
Yeah.
As far as that goes.
We were trying to get those classrooms out of the basement if we could.
Well, and I understand that.
If we
I can
could.
see that, but there's 18 classrooms, I think, upstairs right now. I may be wrong, but.
Yeah, I didn't bring my map, we got it all.
Well, it's right there, it's right there.
I got one in my
Yeah.
office all written.
But I
on the
think
side.
not counting the ones in the basement, I think there's 18 classrooms in that building. I may be wrong, but
I'd be,
if you had 4 first, 4 second, 4 third. You know. 4 sections, the first, second, third and kindergarten, there's 16, and then you have 2 preschool, that's 18. I know 2 of those are in the basement, but.
yeah, 3 outside.
Yeah, and 3 outs. Well, outside is art and what else?
It's changed, there's pre-K's, I've been out there, art's been out there.
Music, art,
has been
title.
out there.
Okay, so we're gonna have what, 3 sections of kindergarten, 3 sections of first grade, and 3 sections of second grade next year? Is that right?
Second,
So first in kindergarten. So you'll gain 2 classrooms there. And I know we don't wanna put any building at max, but I understand that, but.
and it's maxed now.
Well, I understand, but you know, if you lose another 50 kids like we did this year, that's 100 kids out of that building in a 2-year period. And we're talking about adding on to the building. So
Okay.
that's something to think about.
Well, they didn't lose 50. We didn't
Four-
lose 50
well,
as the district.
Okay, so 45 or whatever, but still. And if we do that again, you know, and then we're talking about adding on to the building, so I just, something to think about. Not that, that's not the route to go, but
Yeah.
I would like to see what it would take to maybe do some of that other.
You know, I was also approached by, community members and parents that, one thing to take consideration also is like the transition between Lincoln and Garfield too, with the grades. And that they said at least in the past, their students,
Get out of one building and go to another.
yeah, they
Or
enjoy
vice
that.
versa.
So anyway, they said, you know, just throwing that out, they said, you know, just take that at least as a consideration when we're doing this project like this, just to see if that's something that we actually, if we go this approach at Lincoln, is that something that we want to actually give up without taking that into consideration? So anyway, I thought it was worth sharing that with you.
I think if we take the roofing out and do those 3 things there at the end, where 21,000 and 26,000, I mean, surely we can do that out of capital outlay and not. And if we had bond issue money, we could do it, use it at better means as far as that goes, I think. But I'd be curious what it'd take to do that.
Yeah.
Like I say, you know, you have 4.5 million on that and 500,000 remodeling Garfield to make the SAC work. So I think even if we did spend $1 million on a SAC building, which I don't think it'd take that much to build that, but I might be wrong. But. Of course, that goes.
Good. Thank you. Like I say, on the 23rd, gives you a chance to look at this
And if you have any
Any thoughts
questions in
today?
between now and then, let me know and I can dig stuff up for you. I will be gone the 10th to the 17th, so may not get back to you until the 18th.
but you can be sitting there waiting.
Yeah.
Thanks, Bruce.
Yeah, thank you.
Information. All right. Capital outlay.
Okay, I won't bore with reading you the history, but you can read through that yourself, but as I said, we've been, we went through a needs assessment this spring, used some of this data, used some of the other information that we had. Feedback from you guys during our facility studies and kind of looking at the outline for next year's projects would be. Or they're included in your report. One big ticket item is the roof at the shop. It's actually 2 roofs, but it's one roof, but part of it is wet right now. And we need to get it taken care of before we have a much larger.
Tar and gravel roof.
No, it's actually a TPO,
Oh, is
just
it?
an old TPO. It's one of the ones that didn't get addressed in the 2015 bond. One of the old ones, so it's probably 26, 27 years old. It's time. Mhm. So that is a big ticket item. And I included that on there. There's a few other things to address. There's been a few that have been I know you guys love seeing flooring, but our goal is still to get rid of all the wax floors. We'll get there eventually. But this gets us darn close. Craig, what would be left if we got the Wakefield and the Garfield done? Is there any other major ones or is it little pockets?
A little bit of high school. Not much. Lincoln.
little pockets, yeah, that we can take care of. Okay.
There can't be much of that.
Our typical annual expenses, a Genie, I think, is a good one, and that's a used one. But that one, I just don't, those guys, that thing's fallen over too many times. It's what they use to replace lights in the gym and get up high, and it's not safe, and I think we need to get a safe piece of equipment ready for them.
What's the transit with the lift?
So. Not here, so they would take the existing transit with a lift, it's a chair lift for wheelchairs. And they would put seats back in it and put it into circulation. Because we get what's it called?
You get special education aid on the depreciation of new. handicap.
And we're depreciated out and we need a transit, so the idea would be take that out of circulation, out of sped transportation, put it back in the fleet. To be used for sports teams, put the new lift and the lift in the new one so you can depreciate its value. So.
Is this in addition to the one we're already replanting?
Correct. That's
Because the other was done this year.
Yeah, the other one's,
This year.
hopefully it'll be here this year, the one from our insurance.
Okay,
The one from the wreck.
yeah, okay.
Then the 110,000 for sidewalk to handicap at the stadium.
Yeah.
So I would have looked at that, Brett. I don't, for 40 grand, my
I'll tell you.
hang up with it is. I don't know how they would do that, get it up to that level. And still have it be handicap accessible.
It wouldn't be for handicap. The idea would be that you would reserve like for seniors and older people, like reserve, like say you have to be 60 or older, park in the district gym, and then it's not wheelchair. Your wheelchair people are up in the.
Yeah.
Up in the top parking lot. And you would hope you'd let your older people use the district gym and have, instead of gravel access, concrete access.
I don't know if there are no more parking spots there, just thinking right now. I think I would prefer just taking care of
What's the handicap parking?
the extra handicap, it's like
75.
70. I think it was 70 and I think this other was 40. But extend the handicap parking and take care of that and not worry about that parking lot down in that district. I mean, that district, there's not gonna be spots anyway in that district parking. There's gonna be steps climbing up there. I mean, that's my own opinion. That's worth $40,000 to do that.
I think even for those that aren't older or that don't have any physical ailments, having a sidewalk instead of walking on the street, if you're parking at district gym or the middle school to go burn up, would probably be a good idea. Even, doesn't the visiting football team use the middle school gym? So they have to go down there. So while all the cars are coming in to park, they're going down there and at least they have a sidewalk to go on. Yeah, so I guess I didn't picture that as any kind of handicap accessible need, but more of as a community courtesy. When you're parking down those spots that you can get up to the mat a little bit easier.
Anything else on that list or? So I guess the goal is we're trying to get this approved tonight, so we can get started for the capital outlay stuff. And then we'll approve the rest of the years later. This is just for this year on the capital outlay.
Correct. Yeah. And it could be added to,
We
or
already did the technology, right? Right. But that, I think, is another technology in there for next year. Yeah. Yeah.
I'll move to get final approval for district administration to move forward with the RFP process in the fiscal year 26 capital projects that exceed the bid law limits of $20,000 and proceed with all other fiscal year 26 capital projects.
Second. Motion second. All those in favor? Motion carried 7-2.
And then move to get final approval for Ray Roofing to replace the shop roof at CCCHS for $208,000 as outlined in the time continuing contract with Ray Roofing.
Second. And second. All those in favor? Motion carries 7-0.
Oh, it actually did. Well, how many handicap stalls are you getting out of that?
I don't know exactly how many it would be, to tell you the truth. We just fill that area up with concrete from the existing all the way over, and then whatever ADA rules say, plug as many in as you could get, but I don't know the number.
I think when Brandon was walking around with us, he thought it was 7, we get 7 more out of it. Which that's a pretty good chunk.
And it depends if they're ban or non-ban.
Right.
Right. And so from that spot, that, how close does that put you to the track? Pretty close.
A few feet.
Right next to it.
And you could sit in your car and watch the long jump.
Yeah. Okay.
Handbook. Classified handbook. Any questions on the classified handbook?
Or dress code change in our handbooks,
For certified.
just for certified?
I don't think it changed anything classified wise, did it?
It was in staff handbook. And
So it's certified staff only?
Nothing changed in the classified handbook.
No.
Dress code.
No, I just heard some mumbling about. change
For
of dress
certified,
code.
it did.
Okay,
It aligned all the expectations across buildings. That'd be
for
the
every
same.
every building, the dress code the same?
Correct.
And that's, so the staff, the certified handbook, the dress code's one way, but the classified staff, it's different.
Yes. They're not up to the same expectations, certified. I mean, for the money they make and the job they do, it's different duty.
Sure.
Does say clothing shall be appropriate for the job and good repair and clean, and any method of dress that may attract undue attention, disrupt or interfere with the mission of the district is not permitted.
So do we enforce any kind of? I'm talking shoes more than anything, classified wise. That they, like no open-toed shoes, no,
Well, if it was a custodian, sure.
other than we need to have a conversation with somebody.
And so this is the goal this is why we've gone through and redone this so that we start the year next year very consistent across all our buildings.
I'm just, yeah.
We'd have to comply with OSHA regulations.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't have to have steel toed or anything, but they'd have to closed toed for sure. I mean,
And I think that's why on the classified especially, I did have some like paras and some different folks. Oh no, am I gonna have to wear a dress and heels or slacks? And it's like, no, it's appropriate to your job.
Good.
And so like, if you're expected to be on the floor and playing with kids, like that's a different dress attire than it is for, you know, me coming by off of the top.
okay.
Any other questions on the classified? I move to approve the 2025-26 classified handbook as presented.
Okay.
Second, all those in favor? Motion carries 7-0. Staff handbooks, any questions on the staff handbooks? Again, main was that wording. Making it all the same on the code. So. Which in the end, I think will make it easier on everybody.
Yeah, and they're gonna start out the year very, very consistent with student dress expectations too. So,
And we changed that. I know we made it consistent through the district, the wording on that too, so. Any question then? No, I move to approve the 2025-26 staff handbooks as presented.
Second,
Second, all those in favor? Motion carries 7-0. Ratification of the agreement.
We've been talking about it for 3 or 4 months and the association would get their votes to approve and so. One thing we were hopping back to classified handbook, we will have to, yeah, we'll be fine. Never mind, but I will need to put the pay structure for classified staff into the classified handbook. Yeah, and so once we're ratified, then we'll add that. I think it said pending something in the handbook, the classified handbook, so. But just so you know, we'll make that adjustment to that pay scale. And then also, let me think about that. I may be coming back to you next month or on the 23rd for classified handbook on something.
Okay.
My wheels are turning.
So I move the final approval of ratification of the 2025-26 negotiated agreement as presented.
Second.
And second, any questions? If not, all those in favor? Motion carries 7-0. Next meeting is the one for transfer. That's on the 23rd. We got it. The other thing I want to discuss a little bit is in July. On the 13th, me and Jason were going to be gone. It's a weird deal. It was planned all of a sudden. I thought it was mine was in August and it's not. It's in July. Is that how we want to address that? Is it the 14th? Yeah, sorry, the 14th. My flight's on the 13th. So is that do we try to do it with, I mean, I'm willing to try to get on the phone and do it. Or we move it back a week or what's everybody's thoughts on that?
Please don't move it back. That's fair week.
What's that?
That's fair week. Please don't.
Yeah, I
move
know
it
that's,
back.
I know that's the issue. So
We be on just Monday,
it's
gone all week.
I'll be gone till I get back Wednesday. Yeah, when I get back.
I'll be gone all week.
So.
What do we
So,
have
I
to
could
set?
be here for Thursday if we. If we want to do something like that, or we,
The county clerk, just throwing the date out there, if you guys want to approve the levy, our stuff for R&R is due the 24th and 20th. So, like, we have to.
on the 20th of June,
July.
of July. Okay,
So our county deadline is, and I don't know where the 20th falls, is that a
Sunday.
weekday?
Sunday,
So it's,
21st.
and I'll
I'll
be
have to
here,
look to see if it's before or after,
okay,
how that happened.
well, I mean, I'll be here for the agenda planning thing, and that, I mean, I'm just flying out Sunday, so we'll find a way to make it work. There'll be at least 5 of us here, and then I'll call in and Jason, if you can, you know what I'm saying? But, we'll we'll decide on the 23rd, but my first thought would be is to sign the guy with the most seniority
That's Andy.
during the meeting, so.
That's been longer.
33rd, yeah, so I was
He's a month
gonna say,
older
so.
than mine.
But yeah, we don't have to, if we don't, if everybody else is gonna be there, we'll make it work then. Is that okay with everybody?
Yeah.
Cause I'll be at the agenda planning thing and, okay. Okay, that answers that. All right. Anything else on the next, meeting? Anything? No, we'll take a short break and we'll come back and, do the executive session.
For executive session. I've done all. Yeah.
They're all like.
So those are all numbers, so it's going to.
Sorry. Thank
Only,
you.
only way.
I didn't pay for
Okay,
it.
that's what I thought.
Well, Donald had to pay it. What papers? Dispatch.
Is that, oh, there's
Only like it's regional, it's because it's still going to be dead.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's been gone for 6 months.
Why don't it come to your house?
I leave it at the post office. It's nothing in there hardly ever about Wakefield, so there's more stuff about Manhattan, Concordia, Hayes.
So maybe that's.
That's when seniority has first.
Me? We can have it. I didn't, he just has to designate somebody as friend.
I just, that's what I mean, seniority has it first. I had to look at the dates.
Where are you going?
Gold Shores.
I've
It'll be a long,
I did leave that
Oh,
there.
you're dry.
didn't I?
16 hours.
Are you going to work or family?
No, family.
So I have that.
Oh, we will be here in August.
Gotcha.
So
So
exactly.
we drove in half.
So I can switch it now, I just didn't know what it was supposed to be.
That is terrible.
Okay.
I want to make sure, I think it's like highway 50 or something.
I just wanna make sure I see.
Yes, it's in there.
Okay, thank you.
Two,
Summer vacations
it
coming
is
up.
terrible. Truck, about 40,000 trucks.
Throwing some ideas.
It's terrible.
Too much baseball.
If you open to that world.
Yeah, yeah, we're getting our eyes open.
Exactly.
And there's no other trail when that's- Have the trail, eventually they put in the gray and-
That's what I'm saying. Because he's the vice
Where you gonna fit?
Right. Or maybe that's it, yeah.
I thought the bridge was gonna. but it didn't.
Dusty.
Yeah.
Well,
Oh, our first 5 minute meeting ever.
Good thing for the long.
And-
That, the seventies, eighties, the soul preachers.
Oh, really?
They're pretty good.
That's cool.
Gotta do something different.
Yeah. Cool.
Double with K eighteen and tournaments, we've got 2 games during the week and then weekends, and it's just.
Baseball.
Baseball, baseball.
I got,
Set for a team in California last night.
watched a couple T-ball games, a little different than when we play T-ball.
Oh, yeah.
T-ball games are the worst.
Get pitched 2-3 times, they don't hit it, then we put it on tee.
Yeah.
But everybody bats, everybody runs, everybody plays field. Yeah.
Most of them play in the field, not pay attention.
In the
Hey,
dirt,
Al.
in the dirt, it's so darn.
I went down last Wednesday and watched Callan play T-ball and the other team was from Junction and there was a coach in the outfield when they were in the outfield playing catch with the kids, so he wasn't rolling around on the grass. And then Callan's got a couple kids on his team that they probably should have waited a year. But it's okay, they're out there participating, that's the main thing. My other grandkids down the Mound Ridge, they didn't play a game at all last week because it got rained out everything.
Back lot or.
Their fields like they got it are nice. Okay.
Till they're 150 degrees. Asheville said its feet were on
Oh,
fire
yeah.
last week. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
We'll resume the meeting. Executive session, I move we go into executive session to discuss private personnel matters. Pursuant to the non-elected personnel exemption under KOMA at the open meeting shall resume at 7:45. In the boardroom, the executive session should include the board, superintendent, and council.
Second.
Got a second, all those in favor? Motion.
In August. Yeah. Owns the property.
We'll have a discussion for you.
On the 23rd.
Did it 45 seconds.
Always.
Can we amend the personnel report, Jack, the science teacher?
Put her on the 20.
It's been a long time ago.
Okay, we'll resume the regular meeting now. Is that's one thing I had on the next one is, our agenda. I know we're doing, we talked about, do the bond issue. We gotta do the transfers and that, but we probably should build in a personnel just in case, for that close to school. We get somebody to get them approved. Way we don't have to worry about if we have to change it. Okay. All right, with that, and so, any questions on the personnel report? Did everybody get scanned? If not, I move to approve personnel report, including supplemental updates as presented.
Second.
Second, all those in favor? Motion carries 7-0. And, is that the one we got? I need to get. If that's it, then I move to adjourn.